each year. But critics say they're far from totally reliable. Now a bill has been introduced in Congress that would stop this practice. In a few moments, we'll speak to the sponsor of that legislation and to a businessman who finds that lie detectors are a valuable tool. But first, let's find out how the polygraph works. Doug Williams ran the polygraph division of the Oklahoma City Police Department for 5 years. He joins us now on Nightwatch. Doug, we'd appreciate it if you just show us how this device, the polygraph, works. Jonathan Blackmer here, who is going to be our subject, he wasn't just wandering by in the early morning and got dragged in. He's volunteered to do this, and he'll sit there and be your guinea pig.
Jonathan, by the way, is an extraordinarily fast study. We've got together here, spent a few minutes just an hour or so ago, and he is now able to successfully duplicate a truthful chart. As a matter of fact, he can control every tracing on that chart.
I mean, he can beat this machine.
Well, I would prefer to say that he can always produce a truthful chart. I do not teach people how to beat a valid instrument. That is not valid as a lie detector.
First, show us how it works.
Okay, these two electrodes here are measuring the GSR. That hooks onto the third pin right here.
And what's the GSR?
Galvanic skin response.
Sweat?
Sweat activity.
That tells if like your palms are sweating.
Right. And then these two record his breathing, chest and stomach. And that
does suddenly he take a breath.
Right, and every time he breathes in, the pin moves up, he breathes out, and the pin moves down. The cardio cuff there records his heartbeat and blood pressure.
Does your heart pick up when you start to
every
lie?
time you start to the machine and get the cardio cuff, all it does is give you a tracing of the heartbeat. So what we've got here is a machine that can watch you breathe, watch 2 fingers on your right hand sweat, and it can watch your heartbeat. It records what's known as a fight or flight response. There is absolutely no equation between that and deception. This measures nervousness in all its forms. Rage at having been asked the question in the first place, embarrassment at having been asked the question, misplaced guilt, the tone of the examiner's voice. All of these can elicit the exact same reaction that a polygraph examiner would brand as a lie.
Hey, you're very negative on this to have been a polygraph examiner all these years.
Well, if there are any victims of this machine, it's polygraph examiners themselves, because they're forced to uphold this facade that they can detect deception with this instrument. It causes a lot of problems. Many of them have alcoholic problems, mental problems of some sort. My mental problems have just taken a different bent. I've tried to make restitution for what I did for 5 years.
How did you tell Jonathan to trick this machine?
All I do is teach people to duplicate their physiological response to fear, only do it on demand. When you're fearful, there are certain things that happen. When you're confronted with a stimulus that causes a problem and you get a shot of adrenaline, this adrenaline then causes your breathing to become somewhat erratic, your blood pressure to increase, and the sweat activity to increase. I just teach the people to do what this fear, to produce the symptoms of this fear on demand at the appropriate time. Now, there are 2 types of questions, relevant and control. Relevant questions are obviously those that pertain to the point at issue. If you're applying for a job, did you lie on your job application? Did you tell the complete truth about what you've stolen from previous place of employment? Are you a union member being planted on this job? Various other questions that are germane and relevant. They'll intersperse then control questions with those. Irrelevant questions like, can you drive a car? Did you eat breakfast this morning? And they'll compare your responses to those 2 reactions.
And you teach them to react the same?
I teach them to react to the least incriminating question that they're asked.
What do the needles then do?
All right, let's turn this thing on and get it hooked up here so we can just try it. Get the cuff here. What I'm doing now is I'm going to put some air in his cuff. Now, what we do, this will take about the middle pressure between the diastolic and systolic, so it gets a little bit tight. The test sometimes runs as long as 10 minutes, so that in itself can cause the reaction on the chart just by the pain of the cardio cuff. Now, as you can see, when his heart beats, the pin moves up and down, just measuring his heartbeat. I'll turn on the GSR now, and you'll see as his hand becomes sweatier, there'll be a greater increase in GSR. Now we'll turn on the pneumo. As he breathes in, the pin moves up, breathes out, pin moves down. Now, the presumption is that when you have a reaction being an increase in blood pressure, sweat activity, and erratic breathing pattern, that you are lying. My problem with that is, like I said, that any number of innocent stimuli can cause that, and I can also teach a person to give us a reaction on demand. Like, for instance, I could count to 3, and Jonathan would give me a blood pressure and GSR increase.
Do it.
1, 2, 3. Right there is a higher reaction than would normally occur.
Oh,
As you can see,
that is very telling, isn't it?
I can do this in 20 minutes to anyone, anytime, anywhere, and have done it.
By the way,
That is prime face part.
can you trick this thing by taking drugs, tranquilizers?
I would not suggest that, because the purpose of the machine is not to determine whether you've lied. It is to elicit a confession from you. If you go in there under drugs of any sort, you're just easier prey for a good interrogator.
Well, thank you very much, Doug Williams, and thank you, Jonathan Blackmer, for your wonderful performance there.
Superb.
And we're going to be back with more about the polygraph in a moment. Stay tuned.